And the recording seemed to have stopped also. But that's fine.
Sad.
I just have 2 recordings now. And I don't know if I'm gonna end up posting those separately. Like part 4.5. That might be easier, and then I don't have to worry about editing. But okay. Are you guys still here? Hello?
Hello?
Typing into the chat. My internet died, but it came back. So, at what point did the Discord call cut?
I don't know. We weren't talking already, so.
But you didn't hear me make a comment about the horsetail whisk, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay, that makes sense because there was absolutely no response. So I was like, I just tried to tease you and you said nothing. No, I made a comment about, I'm like, you have a thing for characters that use horsetail whisks because of Zhao Jingchen
Yeah.
and Windmaster. Anyways.
Yeah, maybe so.
So, I hope they're still here. I think it often says 0 viewers and they might still be here. My internet was down for like a couple minutes. Okay, I don't know. That's okay. That notifications. I still have a notification up about my stream disconnecting, and it confused me. They look so good. Hang on. I'm just waiting to see if they come back. I probably shouldn't have hit the record button right away, because I'm making sure that things work. Maybe I will actually edit this and cut this opening.
No idea what's happening.
Nothing's happening, really.
Okay.
And that's the point. This is a very boring part to keep in, like, the stream archive.
It's okay to have little boring bits.
Yeah, I don't remember if I actually did. I think I just uploaded the first stream I did. I had a lot of, like, silent pauses and breaks between chapters.
F.
And I'm like, this is lame. This is boring. And then the other 2 streams, I was like, just trying to pound through it. I don't know if they're there. Oh well. Also, don't. Did we miss anything really important though from when it cut out? Because we had been talking shortly before I made the comment about the horsetail whips.
I don't think so.
We had said something not very long before that. So between those 2 moments is when my internet cut out.
Okay, I don't have any memory of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you did. Yeah, because you didn't hear the horsetail whip thing because my internet cut.
No, I mean, like, I don't know what we were talking about before that.
I don't know. Said something.
Something related to the city arc, because that's where the conversation was at.
Yeah.
But it's all gone to me.
I think it was the mention of just the mention of Xiao Chen, and you said like Kinney moment or something like that. That was
Yeah,
it.
Kenny voice, you can't call
Kinney
me
voice.
old.
Oh yeah, that whole discussion. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was that discussion, and then a little while later, it was mentioned that he has a horsetail whip. I
I'm just
think.
a little guy.
Anyways, it was this whole discussion, just discussing the people who had come from the mountain. The only ones who matter are Wei Wuxian's mother and Xiao Jingchen. That first person who ever left the mountain, no one cares. They don't matter. They're not important. They just exist and no one cares. Apparently they're dead, but don't know why. Also, how the fuck did Wei Wuxian's parents even die? Because it just seems like a normal sort of death. Like, oh no, it was an accident while night hunting and they died. But the
I
fact that
don't.
they point out none of them died a peaceful death makes me think, was it something more dramatic? So I don't know.
I, I don't remember it
Yeah.
ever even being
Okay.
stated how his parents die.
It wasn't. And I always kind of imagined it was like a really simple, oh no, night hunting accident. But the fact that they point out it wasn't a peaceful death, and
I
knowing
don't
how
remember
the
it
other
being
death
confirmed.
was, I'm like, if that's our standard of not a peaceful death, that's not cool.
He
That's
gets all of his skin shaven away with a
eh.
cheese grater.
Gross. Ow. uh, Also, Wei Wuxian said like he didn't do that. He's never done that. He's never killed anyone that way. But I think he's still done it, just not to the point of death. But we'll get to that later. And I'm sad that that doesn't exist in other adaptations. Anyways, last time I really read Mata Zushi at all, I looked up just the one chapter about Wen Chao to read to people who had not read the book before. Because it's like, all right, so you only saw how this happened in Donghua. Let me educate you about the original,
Oh?
because this is what he really deserved. He got off so easy in the Donghua. I
Wait,
think
who are you talking about?
Wen Chao. I think I've said that to
Oh.
someone, and I'm like, he got off so easy. He's like, and they're like, what are you talking about? It was still a gruesome death, and it was like not gruesome enough. It was over too quickly. He didn't suffer. It was months long torture in the original, or at least probably a month. I think that he was being tortured to death. It was a very prolonged thing. We'll find out
I'm
exactly how
thinking
long
about
it
how
was.
Prince Philip died today.
Yeah.
And it's also Maxwell's birthday today.
Happy birthday! Prince Philip's
And it's
dead.
also Jared Way's and Lil Nas X's birthdays.
Why is it everyone's birthday? I've seen so many birthday notifications today.
Yeah, I've seen a lot too. And there's like that one Minecraft YouTuber who's fairly popular who is it's his birthday.
I'm gonna just assume that's someone from the Dream SMP. Because
Tommy in it.
that's, yep, that is someone, and I have heard of him. I mostly, the only, most information I know about Minecraft YouTubers is from my conchild posting about them. Because they're like the only
Yeah,
person I really know that likes them.
they're racist and ableist, so I just stay away.
Yeah, quite
I'm
a
not
few of them are.
interested. I've seen posts about them using the R slur and defending it, and it makes
Mostly
me feel bad.
one. There's like
Yeah, it's
one of them that's
Dream.
particularly bad.
It's
Yeah.
Dream.
Oh, really? That's not who I had in mind. That's not who I was
Oh,
thinking of. No, I
who
don't
were you
even.
thinking of?
I don't remember his name. I think it starts with an S. I have no idea. I don't know shit about them.
Instantly, Sky Does Minecraft comes to mind, but I
No.
feel like He hasn't done Minecraft in a very long time.
The
That's what
only
I've seen.
the Minecraft I like. If we're talking about an SMP, I like the Epic SMP. I think those guys are kind of cool. Most of them.
I don't watch Minecraft videos anymore.
I just like Ross O'Donovan, and he was on it. And like
That's valid.
when there has been stuff of like ableist language or racism, he actually calls it out and tells them like, "Hey, don't say that. That's not cool." So he's like he's not really a Minecraft YouTuber, but his Minecraft content is actually nice.
That's neat. I'm thinking about.
Oh, good
I
night.
don't know what I was thinking about.
I don't know. Sweet dreams. You always fall asleep while I'm streaming. Okay. Where was I? Oh, I got to the end of this chapter, and I don't think any of this needs to be reviewed. Um, After it cut out, it's fine. Zhao Jingchen, he left to this mountain, and he's basically kind of Wei Wuxian's uncle in air quotes because they're not actually related whatsoever. But it's like my mom's friend. I call him uncle, type of a situation. Um, yeah, he would have never. No, he would have never known Wei Wuxian's mother. She left long before he was even born. Um, okay, chapter
Wait,
30.
but how old is Wei Wuxian?
Wait, I believe he was 22 when he died. And 1 year after he had died, Xiao Jingchen was 17.
Oh, he's
So,
baby.
yeah. Wei Wuxian was at least 20 when he died. I believe it was 22. I think rereading, I'll maybe figure out timelines a little bit more, but I kind of am a little bit generous about time between events. He was definitely 17 when the war started because
Yeah,
he was 15 when he went to Cloud Recesses. 2 years later, they went to the cave, and then the war started like immediately after that.
that makes sense.
So that's certain. I know I'm very positive about that. And then a couple years in not Yiling, a couple years in Yunmeng, and then at least a year or two in Yiling. So yeah,
Sense.
I believe he was 22, because then that also makes a nice number when you add 13, so that Lan Wangji would be 35. That's like a good round number for him to be. So I believe that.
And
Anyways,
Xiao Qingshan is so small.
he is
He's
29.
tiny.
He's 6 years younger than them. God.
But he doesn't have young person vibes. He has like
No, he doesn't.
immortal cultivator vibes. I've been alive
Yeah.
for hundreds of years, and
Yeah.
I am the best, and I am
Exactly.
very friendly.
That's why it's weird for me to think that, oh, he's younger than the main cast. Like, it's weird. He doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. But then,
Anyways,
how old is Song Lan?
I think he's probably like the same.
Yeah,
Unless
probably.
they say something. They might state something in here later when he shows
I
up.
don't
I
really
don't know.
think they say much about him at
Probably
all,
not. I would
except
just assume he's the same
we're
age, though.
besties.
Yeah. I just assume they're the same age.
Also, he's very pretty,
Yeah.
and we're
He's
like
he's like a hunk. That's how I kind of think of
intimate
him.
friends, intimate friends in cultivation.
Yeah. Cultivation homies. No
Yes,
homo.
all of my characters are straight, except the protagonist.
Bullshit.
Describes these people as intimate friends.
Yeah. All right. So, chapter 30, do part 3. One day, the Yuyang clan's leader went out night hunting with a few family members for about a half a month. In the middle of the night, without any warning, they received the bad news and immediately hurried back. After the morning, they found out that someone purposefully destroyed their protective array and let in a powerful group of powerful evil spirits. Other than that, they knew nothing. In most cases, only a few people knew about the tragedies that happened in smaller clans, but the circumstances back then were different. The Sunshot campaign finished long ago, while the siege at Luanjiang Hill had only just ended. On the surface, the situation seemed rather stable. With the sudden disclosure of this event, the entire cultivation world was bubbling with discussion, some even exaggerating that it was revenge of the revived Yiling patriarch Wei Wuxian. However, there wasn't any evidence, so it had been impossible to find the killer. Of course, Xiao Jingchen didn't sit back and do nothing. He volunteered to be responsible for the matter and find out the truth for Changping. After a while, the murderer was finally discovered. The murderer's name was Zhu Yang. Zhu Yang was even younger than Xiao
Evil.
Jingchen. Evil baby. Nothing more than a boy. That doesn't.
And
He was. Okay, so Zhao Jingchen was 17 at this time. Zhu Yang's even younger than 17.
he's so small.
He's a murder baby.
Wait, but does it give any indication how young he was?
It just. No, it just says younger than Zhao Jingchen, just a boy. I don't think it says anything else more
So
about
he's
age.
like, I'm going to assume around 14 through 16,
Yes, that is what I was
committing
going to say maybe
freaking
15.
murder, like a massacre.
I think past
Like,
15 is when they start to consider you an adult in this type of world setting. So,
that makes sense, I think.
yeah, it's confusing. Because I think when they were 17, some of their peers were married already. So you're like kind of considered almost an adult, basically an adult by that point. So yeah,
Wait, how much older or younger is Xiang Yangli?
I don't remember. I think it's stated later. It will
Is
be
she like an
stated.
older or a younger sibling?
She's
Like
older.
older?
Jiang Yunli is she's like 3 years
Yeah,
older.
she was the oldest. I remember a scene from the Donghua.
I think she's specifically
Um,
stated to be 3 years older at one point, but I don't remember. Because I'm pretty sure Wei Wuxian was adopted when they were 8 and she was 11. I think they state that.
oh,
I think they state that when they
tiny.
explain when Wei Wuxian was first adopted. So we'll figure it. I'll answer your question when I get to that point for sure.
Comfort straight person.
But I'm pretty positive she was 11 when he was adopted. When he was brought
Comfort
home.
straighty.
Yeah. Let's see. Zhu Yang was even younger than Xiao Xingchen, nothing more than a boy. Despite this, he definitely didn't tone down his cruelty just because he was young. Ever since the age of 15, he had been a delinquent in the area of Guizhou. Known far and wide for his radiant smile. Was he 15 when he committed the murder, maybe? 15 or 16, I guess. Inhumane means and merciless personality. Everyone's expressions changed whenever he was brought up in a conversation. When he was a young child dwelling in the streets, it was said that he developed a hatred for the last for years toward Changping's father. He committed his crime in vengeance and for some other reasons. After Xiao Jingchen found out the truth, he went across 3 provinces, and Zhu Yang was still happily picking fights with others. Taking advantage of the discussion conference that was happening at Jinling Tower of the Lanlingjing sex residence, when the most prominent sects met up and discussed cultivation methods, Xiao Jingchen brought him over, explained the situation, and demanded severe punishment. With his straightforward list of evidence, most sects didn't have any objections, except for one, the Lanling Jin sect. Wei Wuxian, objecting in such a situation would be placing itself against the entire world. Could it be that Zhu Yang was a favorite of Jin Guangshan? Lan Wangqi, a guest disciple. Wei Wuxian, he was a foreign disciple? Back then, the Lanling Jin sect was already one of the four most prominent sects, right? Why would they invited a delinquent to be a guest disciple? Lan Wangji, this is the second connection. He stared into Wei Wuxian's eyes. Because of the Stygian tiger seal. Wei Wuxian's heart immediately skipped a beat. The phrase was definitely not a stranger to him. On the contrary, nobody was more familiar to those 3 words than him. Among all of the spiritual weapons he had forged when he was still alive, this was the scariest and most famous one. When Wei Wuxian first created it, he didn't think too much about it, single-handedly controlling corpses and spirits. Of course, he'd occasionally grow tired, remembering a rare piece of iron ore he had happened to have seen in a beast's stomach. He used it to cast a tiger seal, but after the tiger seal had been created, Wei Wuxian only used it once before finding out that it did more harm than good. The Stygian Tiger Seal's powers were considerably greater than what he had imagined. He originally wanted to use it to assist him, but its powers were almost exceeding him, its creator. Moreover, it didn't settle on one single master. This meant that if someone got a hold of it, no matter who they were, whether they were good or bad, friend or foe, they were able to use it. After the seal had been forged, it wasn't that Wei Wuxian never thought about destroying it, but since the seal was created with much difficulty, it would have been extremely hard to destroy, costing him both time and energy. Back then, he had already vaguely understood that he wasn't in a good situation and would be hated by everyone sooner or later. With a weapon as appalling as the Stygian tiger seal, others didn't dare to act rashly, so he temporarily kept it. He separated the seal into two halves, making it so that they could only be of use when they were put together, and never used without careful consideration. He had only used it 2 times before, and both times caused great bloodshed. The first time was during the Sunshot campaign. After using it for the second time, he finally destroyed one half of the seal. Before he could completely destroy the other half, the siege at Langcheng Hill happened, and it had since then been beyond his capabilities. Toward his own creation, Wei Wuxian was confident to say that even if the sect that got a hold of it made a temple for it and offered it incense every single day, the remaining half of the tire seal was just a piece of scrap iron. However, Lan Wingji told him something shocking. It appeared that Zhu Yang could rebuild the other half of the seal. Although Zhu Yang was young, he was also quite clever, a bizarre eccentric. The Lanling Jin sect discovered that he could use the remaining half of the seal to roughly piece together the other half. Even though the recreated version wasn't as powerful and couldn't be used for as long, it could result in terrible catastrophes. Wei Wuxian understood. The Lanling Jin needed to keep Zhu Yang so that he could continue to restore the Stygian Tiger Seal, so they had to protect him. Perhaps Zhu Yang destroying the Changlan wasn't entirely to avenge what they did to him when he was young. He might have been testing if this clan of live humans, what exactly was the extent of the restored Stygian Tiger Seal's powers. No wonder the rumors connected the case to him. Wei Wuxian could almost imagine those cultivators clenching their teeth. That Wei Wuxian, if he didn't make this, our world wouldn't have encountered so many disasters. Returning to the original thread of conversation, they continued about what happened at Jinling Tower. Although the Lanling Jin sect was determined on protecting Zhu Yang, Zhao Jingchen didn't waver either. As the stalemate continued, they finally startled Qi Feigjun, Niming. Hang on, I'm pulling up. I'm pulling up Translate. I'm pulling up Google Translate, just just to find out. Okay. Ah, crap. The volume's off.
夜明觉
Niming Jia. It isn't Jia. People saying it way are wrong. I think. Unless there's different ways that you could say it.
夜明觉
It is Jew. Wait, I don't like saying that. It's Mingju. I don't know why people say Mingwei. That's not right. Okay. Um, where was I? Shi Fengxun, Zun, Ni Mingju, who didn't intend on participating in the discussion conference. He hurried over to Jinling Tower from far away. In spite of Ni Mingju being a junior to Jin Guangshan, he conducted himself in a strict manner and refused to tolerate Zhu Yang no matter what. With an angry lecture, Jin Guangshan was left with no words and a great deal of embarrassment. Niming Chu, as the irritable person he was, unsheathed his saber on the spot with the intention of killing Zhu Yang, even when his sworn younger brother, Lian Fangzun, Jin Guangyao attempted to ease the situation. He ordered him to leave. After a harsh scolding, Jin Guangyao hid behind Lan Chen, not daring to say anything else. In the end, Lanling Jin sect could only give in. Ever since Zhu Yang was brought to Jinling Tower by Zhao Jingchen, he hadn't been scared at all. Even when Ni Mingju's saber was pressed on the back of his neck, he still had a grin on his face. Before he was taken away, he spoke affectionately to Zhao Jingchen. Dao Zhang, you wouldn't forget me, would you? Let's wait and see. At this point, Wei Wuxian knew that the wait and see would make Zhao Jingchen pay an agonizing price. The Lanling Jin sect was indeed a sect with the thickest face. Although on Jinling Tower, it promised in front of all the sects that Zhu Yang would be executed. When it left Nimingjue's site, it immediately shut Zhu Yang in the dungeons and changed the original decision to a life sentence. Hearing about the matter, Nimingju was enraged and pressed on them again. The Lanling Jin sect rambled about, refusing to give him Zhu Yang no matter how hard he tried. All of the other sects watched from the sidelines. But shortly afterwards, Nimingju passed away from qi deviation. Oh, okay. He cultivated a faster pace than any other leader of the past of the Ni sect, and also died sooner than any of them. Yeah. Now that the person who was most difficult to deal with was gone, the Lunling Jin sect became more and more reckless and started to think of worse ideas. Jin Guangshan started to try as hard as he could to get Zhu Yang out of the dungeons so that he could continue to restore and examine the Stygian tiger seal. However, this wasn't exactly something to be proud of. It was impossible for him to save the murderer of an entire clan from the dungeons without a valid reason. So they turned their attention to Changping. From coercion to harassment, in the end, the Lanling Jin sect finally pressured Changping into correcting his words and validating all of his past speeches. He announced that the wiping out of the Chang clan had nothing to do with Zhu Yang. Hearing the news, Zhao Jingchen visited him to inquire upon the matter. Changping responded helplessly, "What can I do aside from this? If I don't tolerate it, the rest of our clan's people won't be safe for long. I'm really grateful, Dao Zhang, but please don't help me anymore. Now, helping me would be harming me. I don't want the Young Chang sect to end yet." And thus, the tiger had been set free back to the mountains. Wei Wuxian stayed silent. If he were Changping, he wouldn't have cared how prominent or powerful the Longjin sect was, or how much glory the road had offered him, and he wouldn't have let the matter go. Instead, he would have went to the dungeons on his own, cut Zhu Yang up so that he was nothing more than a puddle of flesh on the ground, and summoned his soul back to repeat the process to the point that he regretted ever being born in this world. But not everyone was like him. Preferring to perish together with his enemy, some of the Chang clan's people were still alive. Changping was also still young, single, and childless, having just took his first few steps on the path of cultivation. No matter if he was threatened with the lives of his remaining family members or his own future in cultivation, he had to think carefully. Of course, he wasn't Changping himself. He couldn't be angered or worried in place of Changping, and he couldn't bear Changping's share of mental and physical torment. After Zhu Yang had been released, he started to take revenge again. However, this time the revenge wasn't on Zhao Jingchen himself. Zhao Jingchen left the mountain alone and had no family, and only had a friend that he met afterward, named Song Lan. Yay! Song Lan was also a
Su
cultivator of
Chen,
the
my
time.
beloved.
He was a righteous, determined person, and had a fair amount of appraisal. Both of them wanted to build a sect that valued common ideals instead of blood ties, which made them the closest of like-minded of friends. The people of the time described them as such. Zhao Xingchen, the bright moon and gentle breeze; San Lang, the distant snow and cold frost; Shang Zichen, they actually put his full name. Um, that makes the AUs where they have a sect seem so much nicer. Reading over that, wish it happened. Anyways, Zhu Yang put his hands to the side. Repeating his past technique, he wiped out the Baizhui temple where Sanglan grew up and studied at, and used poison to blind Sanglan's eyes. This time, with his experience of wiping out a sect, he made sure not to leave any evidence. Although everybody knew that he was the one who did it, what would be the use of that? There wasn't any evidence. And with Jin Guangshan's deliberate protection and the death of the violent Chi Fengxun, nobody could do anything about him. Wei Wuxian found this a bit strange. Although Lan Wangji looked as if he didn't care about anything, from Wei Wuxian's past experiences with him, he absolutely couldn't stand wrongdoings. Possibly even more than Ni Huaisang's brother. Back then, the Lanling Jin sect had some dishonest ways of doing things, and Lan Wangji never bothered to be subtle about them. Even until now, he always refused to go to their sex discussion conferences. If two cruel massacres had happened, the news would have probably spread over the entire cultivational world, and Lan Wangji definitely wouldn't have turned a blind eye to them. Why did he not go and give Zhu Yang what he deserved? Yeah, Oh, he figured it out. Just as he was about to ask, he remembered the scars that the discipline whip gave him. One lash of the discipline whip would already be quite severe. If Lan Wangji made some sort of grave mistake and received so many lashes, he probably had been grounded for a few years. It was likely that he was either going through this punishment or waiting for his wounds to heal during the years when the incidents happened. No wonder he had only heard about what happened. For some reason in his heart, Wei Wuxian cared quite a lot about those scars. However, it was inconvenient for him to ask directly, so he had to hold his thoughts for now. Then, what happened to Daozhang Zhao Jingchen afterwards? What happened afterwards was certainly a tragic ending. When he left the mountain and his teacher, Zhao Jingchen vowed that he would never go back again. He was a man of his words, but since Sun Long was not only blind but also badly injured, he broke his vow and carried Sun Long back to Baoshan Sanren's residence, asking her to save his friend. For the sake that they were once teacher and pupil, Baoshan Sanren agreed. Thus, Zhao Jingchen left the mountain once more, and he was never seen again. A year later, Sung Long also left the mountain. To everyone's surprise, his eyes, which were completely blinded, saw light again. However, it wasn't Baoshan Sanren's medical skills that created a miracle, but also Zhao Jingchen dug out his own eyes and gave them to Sung Lan, who was only involved in this because of him. Sung Lan originally wanted to seek revenge on Zhu Yang. At this time, Jin Guangzhan had already passed away. Jin Huangyao took over Lan Lingjin's sect and the position of sect leader. To show that things were going to be different, the first thing he did after coming to power was to get rid of Zhu Yang. Aside from never mentioning this to Jean Tiger Steel again, he also made amends to restore the sect's reputation. Suppressing the rumors, Sun Lung went to search for his past friend's whereabouts. At first, people still heard talk about where he traveled to. After some time, he
I
also disappeared. What?
I hate that gay people can't do math.
Why?
Well, just think about it. Think about it. If Xiao Xingchen gave him one eye,
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's where you're going. Yeah. He didn't have to gouge out both his eyes. They could have shared. He doesn't understand how sharing works.
sharing is caring.
Like, I get one eye, you get one eye, and then we can both see. We won't have depth perception, but at least neither of us are blind. Yeah. That would have fixed a lot of problems. But, he's too generous. And forgot, I guess. Um, Moreover, the Yu Yang Chang sect was a small clan that generally unheard of, and thus a lot of things gradually faded away. Having finished listening to the long story, Wei Wuxian sighed softly. A feeling of regret sprouted inside of him. Meeting such an end because of something not related to him at all, it was really. If Zhao Jingchen was born a few years earlier, or if I died a few years later, things wouldn't have had to be like this. If I was alive, how would I have not taken part in the matter? How would I have not made friends with such a person? Immediately afterward, he laughed at himself bitterly. I would have done something? What could I have done? If I was still alive back then, perhaps the Yu Ying Chang sex case didn't even need to be investigated before everyone decided that I did it. If the Zhao Jingchen bumped into me on the streets and I chatted with him, invite him to drink together, it's likely that he'd hit me with his horsetail whisk. They had already walked past the Chang residence, toward a cemetery nearby. Wei Wuxian saw the red character of Chang on the Pailu, Pailu, and asked, "Then why did Chang Ping die afterward? Who killed the remaining members of his clan?" Before Lan Wangji could answer, a series of bangs came from amid the blue-tinted dusk. The noise sounded a lot like slamming doors, but it wasn't. The bangs were carried out with force and at a fast pace. Without a moment of rest, they sounded somewhat muffled, as if there was something separating them from the outside world. Their faces immediately changed. The 50 or so people of the Yu Yang Chang sect were currently lying in their coffins, slamming on their coffin lids from the inside. It was at night that they were frightened to death. They madly slammed on the doors, but there wasn't anyone to let them out. This was the slamming on coffins in the Chang clan cemetery that the liquor shop's waiter talked about. However, the waiter said that the haunting was 10 years ago and stopped long before. Why would the slamming happen to start again when they came? Without any passing words between them, Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji both softened their breathing, stealthily moving without making a sound. propping themselves against the pillars of the Pailu. They both saw that in the center of the cemetery there was a hole amid the tombstones. It was deep, recently created hole with piles of dirt surrounding it. Faint noises came from within the hole. This bitch. Someone was digging out a grave. The two of them held their breaths, attentively waiting for the person in the hole to come out on their own. Before an hour passed, two people hopped up from inside the opened grave. Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji could tell that these were two people only because they had good vision. These two appeared as if they were conjoined twins. One carrying on their back, they were tightly connected together. With both of them wearing entirely black clothes, it was extremely hard to tell the two apart. The person that hopped up had long legs and long arms, standing with his back toward them. The one that he carried seemed lifeless, their head and limbs hanging down. This was only natural, since the person was dug out of a grave, then it must have been dead. Lifeless was what should have been expected of it. As he thought, the gravedigger suddenly spun around and saw them. There was a mass of thick black mist over the man's face, making it so that nobody could see how their face and features looked. Wei Wuxian knew that he must have cast some sort of strange spell to block his face. Lan Wangji had already unsheathed Bishan, started into the cemetery, and started the fight. The gravedigger's reaction was extremely quick. Seeing the attack of Bishan's blue sword glare, he made a hand seal and also summoned a sword glare. The sword glare was the same as his face, surrounded by dense mist, and made it so that it was impossible to see what its color and style was. With a corpse on his back, the gravedigger fought in a strange way. The two sword glares clashed a few times. Lan Wangji summoned Bishan back and held it in his hand, a layer of frost climbing over his face. Wei Wuxian knew why his face suddenly turned cold. It was because, during the fight, even an outsider like him could tell that the gravedigger was extremely familiar with Lan Wangji's sword moves. Lan Wangji said nothing. Bishan's attacks were deeper and deeper, attacking with tremendous force. The gravedigger fell back a few times, as if he knew that, with a dead person on his back, he wouldn't be able to win against Lan Wangji, and, if they continued to fight, he'd be captured alive. He suddenly fished out a dark blue talisman from his waist. A transportation talisman.
Escape.
Yeah, like a bitch. This type of talisman could instantly transport someone to hundreds of miles away, but it also expanded a great amount of spiritual energy. It would take a long time for the user to regain their energy. Those with spiritual energy that wasn't powerful enough wouldn't be able to use them. Thus, although they were of very high quality, it was rare for anybody to use them. Seeing that he was about to escape, Wei Wuxian hurriedly clapped twice and got down on one knee, slammed his fist to the ground. The strength of his punch passed through the layers of dirt, reached the depths of the soil, and penetrated the thick coffin lids, provoking the corpses trapped inside. With cracking noises, four bloodied arms shot up from the ground, grabbing both of the gravedigger's legs. The gravedigger seemed as if he didn't care at all. He poured his spiritual energy toward the bottom of his legs, blasting the four corpse hands away. Wei Wuxian pulled out his bamboo flute. A shrill, piercing melody ripped through the curtain of the darkness that had fallen. Two human heads emerged from the ground, along with their bodies, climbing upward from the gravedigger's legs and winding around his body as if they were snakes. Opening their mouths, they prepared to bite down at his neck and arms. The gravedigger snorted with disdain, as if he was saying, "What a petty trick!" and sent spiritual energy throughout his body. Yet this time, only after he released his energy did he realize that he had been fooled. He sent the corpse that he carried on his back flying off as well. Wei Wuxian laughed uncontrollably as he smacked the tombstone, while Lan Wangji caught the flaccid corpse with one hand and attacked with Bishan using the other. Seeing that he had just what dugout had been snatched away, that he couldn't even win solo against Lan Wangji, let alone the mischief of another person, he didn't dare to stay any longer. He hurled the transportation talisman on the ground. After a loud noise, blue flames surged up towards the sky. His figure disappeared into the fire. Wei Wuxian knew that the gravedigger had a transportation talisman on him, which meant that even if they caught him, he could find an opportunity to escape. The corpse that he dug out was already a clue, so he didn't have any regrets. He walked over to Lan Wangji. "Let's see who he dug out." As he glanced at it, he was somewhat surprised. The head of the corpse had already been split open. From within the cut there wasn't any blood or brains leaking out, but wads of blackened cotton. Wei Wuxian easily jerked the corpse's head off. With a delicately crafted dummy head, he soaped, "What is this supposed to mean? There's a fake corpse made of cotton and rags buried in the Changlan cemetery?" Having had weighed the corpse in his hand when he took it, Lan Wangji knew that was wrong. Not all of it is fake. Wei Wuxian felt the corpse from head to toe and discovered that aside from its drooping limbs, only its chest and abdomen felt firm and real. After he tore off the clothes, as he expected, he found that only the torso was real. All of the other body parts were fake. The head and limbs were made from cotton to deceive the torso so that it still thought it was attached to its owner's body. Seeing from the skin tone and the part where the left shoulder cut off, this must also torso must be of their dear friend. The gravedigger was here for this. Wei Wuxian straightened up. It looks like that person who hid the corpse also noticed that we're investigating the issue and came to transfer the torso somewhere else in case we find it. To come early isn't as good as to come in time. We just happened to bump into him. But with a change of tone, he continued, why was the misfaced gravedigger so familiar with your sex sword style? It was obvious that Lan Wangji was also thinking about this matter. The coldness on his face yet to fade, Wei Wuxian spoke again. His cultivation is quite high, enough to support the energy used for one transportation talisman. He casted both spells on both his face and sword. It's understandable that he cast a spell on his face. After all, he wouldn't have wanted to be seen, but most lesser known cultivators wouldn't have needed to cast a spell on their swords to cover it, unless, of course, it was either someone or very famous in the cultivation world. He'd then have to cover it, because if everyone could recognize his sword glare, his identity would be revealed as soon as his sword was revealed. Wei Wuxian asked suggestively, Han Jun, from your fight before, do you think he's someone you know really well? It'd be convenient for him to be more specific, such as Lan Chen or Lan Ren. Wei Wuxian answered assuredly, no. Wei Wuxian was quite confident in Lan Wangji's answers. To him, Lan Wangji wasn't the kind of person who'd run away or hide from the truth. If he denied it, that meant it must have been wrong. He didn't like to lie, either, in Wei Wuxian's opinion. If someone asked Lan Wangji to lie, he'd rather silence himself and not talk at all. Thus, Wei Wuxian immediately excluded the possibility of the gravedigger being these two. Lan Wangji put the torso in another double-layered Qiankun pouch and put it away properly. The two walked around for a while and wandered back to the street of the liquor shop. The young waiter was true to his words.
Dear friend 2, Electric Boogaloo.
They have 3 whole body parts.
Oh, dear friend 3, Electric Boogaloo. Where did Tony go? Mom, did you see?
The young waiter was true to his word. Most of the other liquor shops on the street had closed already, but their banner was still up and their lights were still on. The waiter was outside, eating from a large bowl. Seeing them, he beamed. You're back! We kept our word, didn't we? Did you two see anything? Wei Wuxian laughed as he answered. With Lan Wangji, he walked back to the table they sat at during the day. With liquor jars crowding the table, and by his feet, he spoke. Right. What were we talking about? Suddenly interrupted by the digger. I don't know how Changping died. Lan Wangji continued with the explanation with simple direct words. Zhu Yang, Zhao Jingchen, and Song Lan left one by one, some disappearing, some passing away. Quite a few years later, the incident
Passing
passed.
away.
Yup. One day, Changping and the remainder of his clan's members died overnight due to
Hi,
Ling
Tony.
Qi. Ooh. Moreover, Changping's eyes were dug out. What is it with Zhu Yang and just ripping people's eyes out and stuff? Or, like, messing with their eyes?
Evil.
You are losing your seeing rights. This time, nobody could find out who the murderer was. After all, everyone a part of it had vanished. However, there was one thing that could be determined. From the wounds, it could be verified that the sword was used to Ling Qi them. It had also been Zhao Xingchen's sword, Shuanghua. Oh. The bowl of liquor that Wei Wuxian was holding stopped in front of his mouth. He was shocked by the turn of events. He was Ling Qi'd by Zhao Xingchen's sword? Then was he the one who did it? Lan Wangji, Zhao Jingchen had disappeared. There was no conclusive evidence. Wei Wuxian, if he couldn't be found alive, then has anyone tried soul summoning? Lan Wangji, yes, nothing was found. Nothing was found. He either didn't die, his soul had dissolved, or as someone who specialized in the area, Wei Wuxian had to comment on the matter. Things like soul summoning, you can't rely on them too much. Time, place, and person all play a part in it, so of course it'd sometimes go wrong. I'm guessing that a lot of people think that it was Zhao Xingchen's revenge. Han Guangjun, Han Guangjun, what about you? What do you think? Lan Wangji slowly shook his head. One should not comment without understanding the whole picture. Wei Wuxian admired his attitude and principles a lot, grinning as he drank another gulp of liquor. He heard Lan Wangji spoke again. What about you? Wei Wuxian, Ling Chi's a type of torture. Its meaning involves punishment, Anyways, digging out the eyes also makes it quite hard to not to associate with Zhao Xingchen, who also dug out his eyes. Thus, there's nothing wrong with most people guessing that it was Zhao Xingchen's revenge. However, he thought about how to phrase it. I think that in the beginning, Zhao Xingchen never asked for Changping's gratitude when he first stepped in. I Before he finished thinking of what he should follow the eye, the waiter eagerly brought over 2 dishes of peanuts. Having been interrupted, Wei Wuxian didn't need to continue anymore. He looked up at Lan Wangji and smiled. Han Guangjun, why are you looking at me like this? I'm not saying anything. Just like you, I don't understand the whole picture, so I'm not going to comment either. You're right. Before knowing all of the turns and twists, causes, and effects, nobody should presume anything about anything. I only ordered 5 jars, but you bought 5 more jars for me, so I'm afraid I won't be able to finish all of them by myself. How about if you drink with me? This isn't the Cloud Recesses, so it shouldn't violate anything, right? He had already prepared himself to be bluntly rejected, but who knew that Lan Wangji replied, I will drink. Wei Wuxian clicked his tongue.
Drunk scene?
The first one, yeah. Wei Wuxian clicked his tongue. Han Jun, you really have changed. Before, I drank a tiny jar in front of you, and you got so mad you even threw me off the wall and hit me. Now, though, you're hiding jars of Emperor Smell in your room and secretly drinking. Fixing his collars, he answered in a calm voice, I did not touch any jar of Emperor Smile. Wei Wuxian, why did you hide them if you're not drinking anything? Saving them for me? Fine, fine, you didn't touch them. I'll believe you, okay? Let's talk about something else. Come, I really need to see just how many cups it will take to make an abstinent disciple of the Gusulan sect drunk. He poured a bowl for Lan. One. The answer is one. He poured a bowl for Lan Wangji. Without any thought, Lan Wangji took it over and drank up. Wei Wuxian was unusually excited, staring at his face to see when it would turn red. Yet, even after he stared for a while, neither Lan Wangji's face, color, nor expression changed. Staring at him calmly with light-colored eyes, there wasn't any change at all. Wei Wuxian was extremely disappointed. As he was about to urge him for another jar, suddenly Lan Wangji frowned and lightly rubbed between his brows. After a few moments, with a hand supporting his forehead, he closed his eyes. He fell asleep? He fell asleep! After most people drank so much liquor, they would become drunk first, then sleep. How could Lan Wangji skip the step of getting drunk and go to sleep immediately? Drunken was the part he wanted to see. Wei Wuxian waved at Lan Wangji, whose face remained serious even after he was asleep, then clapped beside his ears. There was no reaction. Lan Wangji was surprisingly the type who collapses after just one bowl. Wei Wuxian didn't expect this sort of situation to happen at all. Thinking as he shook his legs, he put Lan Wangji's right arm around his arm and dragged him out of the liquor shop. He had already familiarized himself with the action of fishing things from Lan Wangji. After taking out the pouch containing money, he found an inn and asked for 2 rooms. He carried Lan Wangji to one of the rooms, took off his boots and tucked him in, and slipped into the night. Stopping at a desolated area, Wei Wuxian took out his flute by his waist and placed it by his lips, and, and played a melody. After this, he waited silently. In these past few days, Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji spent their days and nights together. He didn't have any alone time, so he couldn't summon Wen Ning, aside from hiding his identity in the beginning. There was another reason. Wen Ning had killed the Gusulan sex people before, even if... What? When? Even if Lan Wangji treated Wei Wuxian well, he couldn't summon Wen Ning right in front of him. Or perhaps it was because Lan Wangji treated him well that he didn't have the face to summon Wen Ning in front of him. When did Wen Ning ever kill Gusulan people? That doesn't check out.
Maybe it was just like one of those very many people that pissed off Wei Wuxian and he just like murdered
Yeah, I don't know.
towards the end of his life.
Maybe
Like unnamed
because
Gusulan people.
Wen Ning was quote unquote dead when the not the Sunshock, the Nightless City thing happened.
Yeah.
And that is why the Nightless City thing happened. So I don't know, unless they're assuming that he had killed Lan people during the war, which I don't believe Wen Ning ever killed anyone during the war. I think that's an assumption that other people made because it's like, why wouldn't he? Because he's a softie, that's why.
Well, he commits a little murder sometimes.
Yeah.
On command.
um, let's see. Perhaps it was because Lan Wangji treated him well that he didn't have the face to summon Wending in front of him. No matter how thick his face was, this wasn't the time to have a thick face. Before he knew it, the eerie jingling noises sounded again. With his head lowered, Wending's figure appeared from the shadows of the city well ahead. He wore all black, melting into the darkness surrounding him. Only his pupilless eyes were glaring, hideous white. Wei Wuxian put his hands behind him, slowly paced around Wen Ning. Wen Ning shifted as if wanting to follow his steps and walk in circles as well. Wei Wuxian commanded, "Stand properly." He complied and stopped moving. It seemed as if his delicate features appeared even more dejected. Wei Wuxian, hand. Wen Ning extended his right arm. Wei Wuxian grabbed his wrist, lifted it up, closely examining the iron cuff and chain locked onto it. This wasn't an ordinary chain. When Wendig flipped out, he became extremely violent, capable of twisting iron into sludge, so he wouldn't have let it drag around like this. It was likely that this was a set of chains created specifically to restrain Wendig. Turned to ashes? Trying as hard as they could to restore a damaged piece of the Stygian tiger seal, of course some sex salivated at the ghost general as well. How could they have been willing to turn him to ashes? With a bitter laugh, he stood by Wending's side. After considering for a moment, he started to press his fingers into Wending's hair. The person who had kept and restrained Wending must have prevented him from thinking on his own, to make him listen to other people's orders. Wending's sanity must have been destroyed, which means that they must have planted something inside his head. As he had expected, after pushing around a few times, Wei Wuxian found a hard nib on an acupoint of the right side of his head. He put his hand on the left side of Wending's head and found the same thing, resembling the end of a needle. Wei Wuxian pinched both needles at the same time and gradually pulled two black, long nails from within Wending's skull. The two nails buried deep inside of Wending were around an inch long and as thick as the red strings used for jade pendants. As soon as the nails left his head, Wending's features quivered faintly. A layer of black lines that resembled strands of blood climbed across the whites of Wending's eyes. It seemed as if he was trying hard to endure the pain. It was how strange was it that, although he had died, he could still experience feelings of pain. Judging from the intricate, complex lines carved onto the nails, it must have came from a unique source. Their creator was fairly skilled. It would take some time for Wending to heal completely. Putting them away, Wei Wuxian looked down at the chains on Wending's wrists and ankles, thinking to himself that it'd be a bit inconvenient for them to hang around and make noise. He'd need to use a cultivational sword to cut them off. The first thought that he thought of was, of course, Lan Wangji's Bishen. Although it was somewhat unbefitting to use the sword of someone else, from the Lan sect to cut off Wending's change, it was the best cultivational sword that he could get his hands on. He really couldn't let Wending drag so many burdensome things behind him. Wei Wuxian thought to himself, okay, I'll go back to the inn first. If Lanjan is awake, then I won't do anything. If Lanjan is still asleep, I'll quickly borrow Bishan for a while. Having made his decision, he turned around. However, what he didn't expect was that Lan Wangji was standing right behind him. Um, mm,
Exciting.
Nothing all that special in the translator's notes, I don't think. Mm, yep. Hand seal, yes, pretty much those things in Naruto. Yep, cool. See, that's a translator's note that worked for me. I'm like, I know exactly what we are talking about now. You compared it to Naruto.
You're a Naruto fan.
Yeah. I look, the first commentary I ever made about Moto Zushi when I was getting into it was a comparison to Naruto. Because you know how the Donghua opens up with that scene from the war of Wei Wuxian killing Wens.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I'm like I love this music. I love the flute. This is like the same this type of music is like the exact thing I love about the Naruto soundtrack. Like traditional Chinese and Japanese music is I love it. It's good. Anyways, I like their traditional instrumentations. Um Chapter 31, Do Part 4. After he summoned Wen Ning, Wei Wuxian's state of mind was somewhat confused, so it was hard for him to be continuously alert, and if Lan Wangji didn't want someone to notice his arrival, he could do it without any difficulty. Thus, as he turned around and saw the even colder face under the moonlight, his heart almost skipped a beat. He didn't know how long Lan Wangji had been here, or if he had seen and heard what he was doing. If Lan Wangji had never been drunk in the beginning and followed him all the way here, the situation would be even more awkward, especially with him not saying anything to Lan Wangji's face and sneaking out to summon Wen Ning after Lan Wangji fell asleep. Lan Wangji crossed his arms in front of him and held Bishan in them. His expression was particularly stiff. Wei Wuxian had never seen him with such an obviously displeased expression on his face before. He felt that he needed to speak first and explain the situation, ease the atmosphere. Ahem. Han Jun. Lan Wangji did not reply. Standing in front of Wen Ning, Wei Wuxian stared across at Lan Wangji. He touched his chin and, for some reason, felt exceptionally guilty. Lan Wangji finally let down the hands that held Bishan and walked a few steps forward. Seeing that he went toward Wen Ning with sword in hand, Wei Wuxian thought that he was going to kill Wen Ning. Oh no, don't tell me that Lan Shan really pretended to be drunk so that he could kill Wen Ning after I summoned him. Of course, nobody actually gets drunk after just a bowl. He blurted, Han Jun, listen to me. With a loud smack, Lan Wangji hit Wen Ning. Although it sounded quite strong, he didn't actually do any damage. Wen Ning only staggered a few steps backward after the blow. He wobbled a bit and regained his balance, standing properly again with a blank face. Wen wasn't in a state as easily angered as when he flipped out in the past, but his temper wasn't too good either. During the night at Dafan Mountain, nobody could lay a sword on him before everyone was knocked down. He even held someone by his neck. If Wei Wuxian didn't stop him, he would have strangled every single one of the people at the scene. Yet, although Lan Wangji smacked him once, his head was still lowered, appearing as if he didn't dare to resist. Wei Wuxian thought that this was a bit strange, but he nevertheless felt relieved. If Wen Ning returned the strike and the two started fighting, it'd be even harder to intervene. As if he didn't think one smack was enough to express his rage, Lan Wangji pushed Wen Ning to about 30 feet away. He spoke to Wen Ning in an annoyed voice. Go away. Wei Wuxian finally noticed that something was wrong. Both the smack and the push, and his speech and actions were unusually childish. After he pushed Wending so that he was far away enough, Lan Wangji seemed as if he was finally satisfied. He turned around and walked over to Wei Wuxian. Wei Wuxian looked at him scrutinizingly. There wasn't anything wrong with Lan Wangji's face and expression. He was even more serious, proper, flawless as usual. His face wasn't flushed. His breathing wasn't short. He walked around steadily with confidence. It looked like he was still the calm, righteous cultivator Han Guangjun. But as he looked down, he found that Lan Wangji's boots were put on the wrong feet. Before he left, he took Lan Wangji's boots off and tossed them beside the bed, and now Lan Wangji's left boot was on his right foot, while his right boot was on his left foot. Han Guangjun, the prominent cultivator who valued manners greatly, would never have went outside with his clothes like this. Wei Wuxian asked tentatively, Han Guangjun, what number is this? He made the number 2 with his fingers. Lan Wangji didn't answer and reached out with his hands, with one on the left and one on the right. He solemnly wrapped his hands around both of Wei Wuxian's fingers. With a clang, Bishan fell down to the ground due to its master's negligence. Wei Wuxian. Dot dot dot. This definitely wasn't the normal Lanshan. Wei Wuxian. Guangjun, are you drunk? Lan Wangji. No. Drunk people usually didn't admit that they were drunk. Wei Wuxian took his fingers back. Lan Wangji attentively maintained his gesture of how he grasped Wei Wuxian's fingers with both of his hands in loose fists. Wei Wuxian was utterly speechless. Standing amid the chilly night breeze, he removed his gaze from Lan Wangji and looked up at the moon. Most people became drunk before they slept. Well, Lan Wangji slept before he became drunk, and when he was drunk, he looked no different from how he usually was, which is why it was hard to tell. In the past, Wei Wuxian had countless friends to drink with. He had seen hundreds and thousands of ways people acted when they were drunk. Some wailed loudly, others giggled idiotically, some flounced about, others collapsed immediately. Some were determined in taking their own lives, Why Others whimpered, Why are you leaving me? However, this was his first time seeing someone like Lan Wangji who didn't make any noise, looked decent, yet acted strangely. The corners of his lips twitched. Trying not to laugh, he picked up Bishan from the ground and carried it onto his back. Okay, let's go back. He definitely couldn't let Lan Wangji roam around outside like this. Who knew what else he would do? Luckily, it seemed that Lan Wangji was also quite easygoing when he was drunk. With an elegant nod, they went off. If someone passed by, they would have thought that these two were good friends, strolling in the night and praised the refined act. Behind them, Wenning silently followed. Just as Wei Wuxian was about to speak to him, Lan Wangji whirled around and angrily smacked him once more. This time it was on Wenning's head. Wenning's head was even more lowered due to the smack, even though his facial muscles were rigid and couldn't make any sort of expressions. Even though his eye whites couldn't make any sort of gazes. For some reason, he still looked as if he had been wronged. Not knowing whether to frown or laugh, Wei Wuxian grabbed Lan Wangji's arm. What are you hitting him for? Lan Wangji spoke to Wen Ning in a threatening tone that he definitely wouldn't have used if he was awake. Go away. Wei Wuxian knew that he shouldn't disobey someone who was drunk. He hurried. Okay, okay, it's up to you. I'll make him go away if that's what you want. As he spoke, he took out his bamboo flute. Before he even placed the flute to his lips, Lan Wangji quickly grabbed it. Do not play for him. Wei Wuxian teased, why are you being so pushy? Lan Wangji repeated angrily, do not play for him. Wei Wuxian discovered that, although people who were drunk often had a lot of things to say, Lan Wangji usually didn't like to speak. He would repeatedly say the same words after he drank. Seeing that Lan Wangji had never been too fond of demonic techniques, he might not have liked how he used his flute to control Wen Ning. Anyway, he had to pet him in the direction of his fur, of course. All right, I'm only going to play for you, okay? Lan Wangji announced his satisfaction with an but continued to play with the flute in his hands, unwilling to return it. Wei Wuxian could only whistle. He spoke to Wen Ning. Keep on hiding. Make sure nobody finds you. Wen Ning seemed as if he really wanted to follow, but having received his commands and being scared that Lan Wangji would hit him a few more times, he slowly turned around, dragging the chains behind him. He walked away dejectedly. Wei Wuxian turned to Lan Wangji. Lan Zhan, now that you're drunk, why doesn't your face flush at all? Since Lan Wangji looked too normal, almost even more normal than Wei Wuxian, he couldn't help but talk to him as if he was talking to an ordinary person. Yet, unexpectedly, after Lan Wangji heard this, he reached out, grabbed his shoulder, and pulled him into his arms. Caught off guard, Wei Wuxian's head was slammed right into his chest. As he recovered from the dizziness, Lan Wangji's voice came from above. The heartbeats. What? Lan Wangji. The face doesn't show anything. Listen to the heartbeats. As he spoke, his chest vibrated from the low voice. A heart pulsated steadily and continuously, thump thump. It was a bit fast. Wei Wuxian understood and looked up again. I won't be able to tell from your face, only if I listen to your heartbeat. Lan Wangji answered sincerely. Hmm. Wei Wuxian bent over in laughter. Was Lan Wangji's face so thick that the blush couldn't even be seen? He wasn't this sort of person, was he? And Lan Wangji was so honest after he was drunk. His actions and comments were also bolder. Since this was a rare occasion to see such an honest, open Lan Wangji, it would have been impossible for Wei Wuxian to treat him with respect and not play any tricks. He hurried Lan Wangji back to the inn, entering the room, and held him down on the bed. He took off the boots that were put on wrong. Guessing that he probably didn't know how to wash his own face in such a state, he took off Lan Wangji's forehead ribbon and brought in a basin of hot water along with a towel. Wringing the towel out, he folded it into a square and gently rubbed Lan Wangji's face. During the process, Lan Wangji didn't resist at all, obediently allowing his face to be kneaded in all kinds of directions. Aside from squinting when the towel went near his eyes, he stared at Wei Wuxian without even blinking. Wei Wuxian had a ton of amusing ideas inside of his head. Seeing his clear gaze, he couldn't help but brush a finger against Lan Wangji's chin. He laughed. Why are you looking at me? Am I good looking? He just happened to have finished cleansing before Lan Wangji could answer. Wei Wuxian tossed the towel into the basin. Your face is clean now. Do you want to have some water first? Having heard no answer from behind him, he turned around only to see Lan Wangji holding the basin in his hands, his face already buried inside. Wei Wuxian almost paled from the shock. He grabbed the basin and moved away at once. I didn't mean the water in here. Lan Wangji raised his head calmly. Transparent droplets of water rolled down his jaw, seeping into the front of his collar. Looking at him, Wei Wuxian wasn't sure how to describe what he's feeling right now. Did he drink the water or did he not? Hopefully Lan Zhan doesn't remember anything after he wakes up, or else for the rest of his life he wouldn't be able to face anyone. Wei Wuxian used his sleeves to wipe off the droplets of water on Lan Wangji's jaw and put his arms around him. Han Guangjun, now, are you going to do whatever I tell you to do? Lan Wangji. Wei Wuxian, you'll answer whatever I ask you? Wei Wuxian put one knee on the bed and smirked. Okay, let me ask you. Have you secretly tasted the Emperor's smile you hid in your room? Lan Wangji. No. Wei Wuxian, do you like rabbits? Lan Wangji. Yes. Wei Wuxian, have you ever violated any rules before? Lan Wangji. Yes. Wei Wuxian, have you ever liked anyone? Lan Wangji. Yes. All of Wei Wuxian's questions were just for the sake of them. Not that he really wanted to find out about Lan Wangji's private matters, he simply wanted to know whether or not Lan Wangji would really answer whatever he asked. He continued, How about Zhang Chang? A frown. Wei Wuxian, how about Wen Ning? Indifference. Huh? Wei Wuxian grinned and pointed at himself. How about this one? Lan Wangji. Mine. Lan Wangji stared at him, slowly articulating and stating, Mine. Wei Wuxian suddenly understood. He took Bishan off his back, thinking to himself, when I pointed at myself, Lan Zhan probably thought that this one meant Bishan. He got off the bed and walked around the room with Bishan in hand, from the left to the right, from the east to the west. As had expected, Lan Wangji's gaze closely followed wherever he walked, ever so sincere and straightforward, ever so blunt and bare. Wei Wuxian's legs almost gave out under Lan Wangji's heated gaze. He lifted Bishan in front of his eyes. Do you want it? Lan Wangji, I want it. As if he thought this wasn't enough to prove his desire, Lan Wangji grasped the hand that Wei Wuxian held Bishan with and stared into his eyes with those light-colored pupils. Talking in a soft breath, he repeated his words, emphasizing every syllable. I want it. Wei Wuxian knew that Lan Wangji was desperately drunk, that it wasn't directed at him, yet those 3 words still crashed into him, taking away the strength in his arms and legs. He thought to himself, Lan Zhan, what a person! He's so sincere, enthusiastic towards a girl, then what a man he'd be. Recovering from the blow, Wei Wuxian asked again, How did you recognize me? Why did you help me? Lan Wangji opened his mouth. Wei Wuxian shifted a bit closer, wanting to hear this answer. However, Lan Wangji's expression suddenly changed. With a shove, he pushed Wei Wuxian onto the bed. The candlelight was snuffed out with a wave of his hand. Bishan was thrown onto the ground by its master again. Wei Wuxian's sight spun dizzily from the shove. He thought that Lan Wangji woke up. Lan Zhan? A familiar place behind his back was tapped once. His entire body felt sore and numb. He couldn't move at all. Similar to the first night at clown recesses, Lan Wangji took his hand away, lay down beside him, and put the blanket over them, carefully tucking in the blanket on Wei Wuxian's side. It is 9. Rest. So, after all, it was the scary bedtime routine of the Lan sect. With the interrogation having been cut off, Wei Wuxian stared at the ceiling. Can't we rest and chat at the same time? Lan Wangji. No. Oh well, someday there'd be a chance to get Lan Wangji drunk again. The answer would be revealed sooner or later. Wei Wuxian. Lan Zhan, remove it. I got us 2 rooms. We don't need to be crammed in the same bed. After pausing for a moment, Lan Wangji's hand came over, fumbling around the blankets for a while. Started to slowly untie the ribbons, holding his clothes together. Wei Wuxian exclaimed, Okay, enough. I didn't mean for you to remove it in this sense. All right, sure, I'm laying down and sleeping. A dead silence filled the darkness. After keeping quiet for a while, Wei Wuxian spoke again. I finally understand why your sect prohibits liquor. You collapse after just one bowl, and can't tell good liquor from bad liquor. If everyone in the Lan sect is like this when they're drunk, you deserve to be prohibited from drinking. Anyone who drinks should be beaten up. With closed eyes, Lan Wangji raised his hand and covered Wei Wuxian's mouth. He shushed. Shh. The breath that Wei Wuxian was about to take got stuck between his chest and his mouth, unable to come up or go down. It seemed that ever since he came back, whenever he decided to tease Lan Wangji, like how he did in the past, he always suffered from his own actions. This shouldn't have been the case. Where exactly did he go wrong? There's a hilarious comment I found, favored by the author herself. Speaking of it, the name of Wei Ying's, Wei Wuxian, friend who weeps and asks, Why are you leaving me? When drunk is What? Oh, okay, scum villain reference. What?
What's the reference?
Um, Wei Wuxian was saying there was all kinds of people that he had drank with, and one was someone who starts crying and says, "Why are you leaving me?" I guess someone commented on the original novel saying that person is Lulu Binghe, isn't it? Binghe
Oh,
is
maybe so.
Binghe is the one who cries, saying, "Don't leave me."
I would not be surprised because there's also the running joke of first brother, second brother, third brother.
Yeah,
And Lu Binghe is the first one.
yeah. He would be the type
So
to
like
cry and be like, "Don't
indirectly
go."
related to Lan Wangji as a fun.
I am
I don't know.
contained.
That
Is
makes sense
this
to me.
okay? Still not at Yi City. I don't know if I'll stop. Maybe once getting to Yi City.
EC is a fun.
Yeah, and it's long. It's very long.
It is.
Um, we're probably close.
Maybe.
Okay, I'm on chapter 32 right now. Yeah. Ah, Jesus. Okay, this is the last part. This is the last chapter of this part. So that's probably a good cutoff point. It's not cliffhanger. Um, this time, throughout the night, Wei Wuxian didn't shut his eyelids even once. With opened eyes, he managed to hold out until the second morning. After feeling the numbness pass and that his limbs were able to move again, he calmly took off his shirt inside the blanket and threw it under the bed. Then he pulled Lan Wangji's sash belt off and succeeded in yanking his shirt half off. He originally wanted to completely take off his shirt, but after seeing the sear under Lan Wangqi's collarbone, Wei Wuxian paused for a moment and stopped, also remembering the discipline whipped scars on his back. He knew that he shouldn't go further and wanted to pull Lan Wangqi's clothes back again. Due to the delay, Lan Wangqi seemed as if he felt cold, shifting slightly. He opened his eyes with a slight frown on his face. As soon as his eyes were open, he tumbled off the bed. It really wasn't the elegant Han Guangzhu's fault that he was not elegant at all after the shock. Any man who woke up with a hangover in the morning and saw another man lying beside him, wearing nothing, and that his own shirt was only half on, and found that the both of them were skin to skin snuggling in the same bed sheets, wouldn't have paid attention to be elegant. Wei Wuxian covered his chest with the blanket, leaving only his smooth shoulders out. Lan Wangji, you. Wei Wuxian purred. Lan Wangji, last night, I. Wei Wuxian winked his left eye at Lan Wangji and smiled mysteriously, resting his chin in one hand. You were so bold last night, Hung Jun. Wei Wuxian, do you really remember nothing of the things that happened last night? It seemed that Lan Wangji didn't really remember. His face was already as pale as snow. It was fortunate that he didn't remember, or else, if Lan Wangji still remembered that he sneaked out to summon Wenning during the night and asked about it, neither lying nor speaking truth would make the situation better. With so many cases failing to tease Lan Wangji and lifting a rock only to have it drop on his foot, Wei Wuxian finally found some of his past abilities. Although he wanted to continue his successful pursuit, Wei Wuxian still wanted to lure Lan Wangji into drinking again in the future, so he probably shouldn't go as far as to scar him for life, or else Lan Wangji would be cautious the next time. Wei Wuxian lifted the covers open and showed him the trousers and boots that he still had on. What a man! Han Guangjun, it was only a joke. I just took off our clothes. Your chastity is still there. You haven't been tainted. Don't worry. Lan Wangji was still frozen on the spot and didn't answer. A shattering sound came from the center of the room. The sound was quite familiar. It was already their second time hearing it. The Chenkun pouches that had been on the table were becoming restless again, throwing the cups and teapots to the ground. This time, with three body parts together, it was even more wild. Last night, one of them was hopelessly drunk while the other was helplessly tormented, so of course they forgot all about the duet. Wei Wuxian was worried that Lan Wangji was overly shocked and would accidentally impale him onto the bed out of impulse. He hurried, Serious business. Come, come, let's do our serious business first. He wrapped a piece of clothing around him, hopped off the bed, and extended a hand toward Lan Wangji, who just stood back up. He wanted to help him up, but it seemed almost as if he wanted to rip his clothes. Lan Wangji still hadn't come over the shock and stepped backward only to stagger from something under his foot. Looking down, it was Bishen, which had been lying on the ground ever since last night. And at this point, one of the ropes that tied the pouches had come loose. Half of an ashen arm had already crawled out of the tiny opening. Wei Wuxian put his hand onto Lan Wangji's semi-open clothes and searched around, fishing a flute out of the other's arms. Han Guangjun, don't be scared, all right? I'm not going to do anything to you. It's just that you took away my flute last night. I need to have it back. After the comment, he even considerately pulled Lan Wangji's collars back tied up his sash belt properly. Lanwinchi looked at him with a complicated expression as if he really wanted to ask about the details of what happened after he was drunk. However, he was used to finishing important tasks first, so, suppressing his questions, he put on a serious expression and took out the seven-stringed guchin. Of the three chiankun pouches, one held the arm, another held the legs, and the last held the torso. The three parts could already form a large portion of the body. They influenced the others, and the resentful energy multiplied, making them harder to deal with than before. The agitation only ceased after the two played rest 3 consecutive times. Wei Wuxian put away his flute. He was about to gather up the body parts that rolled all over the ground when he suddenly commented, "Our dear friend hadn't been missing his workouts." The sash belt of The sash belt of burial robe on the torso had already loosened, the collars opened to reveal the strong, solid body of a man in the prime of his life, with broad shoulders and a thin waist, in addition to the sharply contoured abdominal muscles. It was the masculine body figure that countless men dreamed to have. Staring at it from every direction, Wei Wuxian couldn't help smacking those abs a few times. What? just,
What?
just just like that's good fucking abs, bro. Just smack the dead body's abs. Like, bro, you work out? Nice.
Awful. But hasn't he been dead for like a while?
Yes.
Do
Like,
corpses keep their abs like years after?
well, he's a fierce corpse, so he doesn't decay at all.
I know. I'm gonna Google that. I think it'd be funny.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, like, if he was a normal dead body, he would just be a skeleton. He died 11 years ago. But because he's like a fierce corpse, he's mostly preserved. So, that's my understanding of it. But I don't know, I'm not Taoist. Like, I don't know shit. Anyways, um yeah, okay, he smacked those abs. Nice. Nice solid muscles, bro. Han Guangjun looked at him. Han Guangjun, look at him. If he were alive and I hit him, the impact would have bounced back and hurt myself. Just how on earth did he train? The tips of Lan Wangji's brows seemed to twitch, but he said nothing. He's jealous. Why don't you smack my abs? Anyways. Yet, unexpectedly, Wei Wuxian smacked it on it 2 more times. Lan Wingji finally took over the Changkun pouches, his face remaining expressionless, and silently started to seal the corpses. Wei Wuxian made way for him at once. Quickly afterward, Lan Wingji finished sealing back all of the body parts, and even tied quite a few dead knots over each one. Wei Wuxian didn't think too much of it. He looked down at the figure of his current body, raised his brows, and tied his sash belt again, appearing to be properly dressed again. Looking to the side, he saw that Lan Wangji still glanced at him after he put away the Changkun pouches, his eyes
I
full of
hate Google.
hesitance. Why?
Oh, I was just looking up stuff about corpses and ahem. If you die face down, your blood could also like settle in your penis, so it creates the appearance of a boner. So any of the
That's really
fierce
funny.
corpses could just be laying down on their stomach for a little bit.
Have like a permanent boner. That's really funny.
I hate it.
I think it's hilarious. And I think that information should be applied to Nimingju. I'm
No,
gonna I'm
thinking
gonna
about like how
mention that.
much blood isn't.
Well, I mean, not all of it would fit. Not all of your body,
Oh
not all
god.
your blood would fit, but
No, my thoughts are elsewhere. I'm thinking about like how much blood is in a body. So if they're like standing upright
gallons. I don't know.
or sitting down,
I'm gonna say 5
would there be enough?
gallons.
Okay, would there be enough blood total to reach your waist?
Yeah.
So permanent boner unless they're laying on their back.
Yeah.
I hate this knowledge so
I love
much.
it. Anyways, I'm gonna tell other people about it. And I'm gonna hope that something comes out of it. Um, okay. Where was I?
I don't know,
Um
but now I'm thinking about
or Sanglan.
this is awful. This is the worst thing I could have found out while trying to figure out if corpses like keep their abs after death or if they like
Well,
if I lay in bed for like a million years, I'm not going to have abs. Is it the
but
same?
but in the terms of this world, their bodies just preserved as is if they are a fused corpse. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, probably. But I was thinking about real corpses.
So
And I hate this knowledge
they
of
cannot
real
gain
corpses.
or lose they cannot gain or lose muscle. So, he stays just as buff as when he died.
Nice.
Um yeah. I mean, he died
I like
hot,
thinking
so now
about
he's hot forever. Um
I like thinking about how Wen Ning alive is portrayed to be very weak,
mhm.
but then after death, people draw him as a little bit taller and
Yeah. Well,
buff
that's
and
cuz we didn't
strong.
well, that's cuz there's a couple years where we didn't see him. We saw him when he was like
That's true.
17, and then for a few years, I don't know, he was off doing his own thing, and then it's like, "Oh, by the way, he died." He is 20 now and dead.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 20 or 21. Definitely not older than that. Wait, wish. I'm getting lost.
I'm sorry I had to stop you.
No, I think that's important information. Um, Okay. Looking to the side, he saw that Lan Wangji still glanced at him after he put away the Chenkun pouches, his eyes full of hesitance. Wei Wuxian purposefully spoke. Han Guangjun, why are you looking at me like this? Are you still worried? Trust me, I really didn't do anything to you last night. Of course, you didn't do anything to me either. Lan Wangji thought for a few moments. As if he finally made a decision, he lowered his voice. Last night, other than taking your flute, Wei Wuxian, what else did you do? Nothing much, really. You just said a lot of things. The Adam's apple on Lanoichi's snow-colored neck bobbed slightly. What sort of things? Wei Wuxian, nothing too important. Pretty much, for example, you really like... Lanoichi's gaze froze. Wei Wuxian, you really like rabbits. Lanoichi closed his eyes and turned his head to the side. Wei Wuxian added in consideration, It's okay. Rabbits are so cute. Who doesn't like rabbits? I also like them. As in, I like to eat them. Here, Han Guangjun, you drank so much last night. Not really. You were so drunk last night. You're probably not feeling that good, right? You can wash your face and have some water and then rest for a while before we set off again. This time, it's pointing in the southwest. I'll go buy some breakfast downstairs and not bother you any longer. As he was about to go, Lan Wangji spoke coldly. Wait. Wei Wuxian turned around. What? Lan Wangji stared at him fixedly. Finally, he asked, Do you have money? Wei Wuxian grinned. Yes, you didn't think that I don't know where you keep your money, did you? I'll grab some breakfast for you too, alright? Han Jin, you can take it slow. We're not in a hurry. He left the room and closed the door behind him. In the hallway, he bent over and laughed silently for a long while. Lan Wangji seemed as if he received a major shock. He shut himself inside the room and didn't come out for a long period of time. As he waited, Wei Wuxian sauntered downstairs, left the inn, and strolled around the area, buying some snacks along the way. He sat down on a set of stairs and bathed in the sunlight as he ate. After having sat there for a while, a group of 13, 14-year-old children ran across the street. The child in front ran as if he flew, holding a string in hand. At the end of the string, a kite danced up and down in the air. The children behind him had tow boys and arrows, shouting as they chased a shot at the kite. Wei Wuxian also loved to play this game when he was young. Archery was a required skill for all disciples from prominent sects. However, most of them didn't enjoy shooting properly at a target, aside from shooting evil beings during night hunts. Shooting kites was what they loved most. Everyone had one. Whoever flew the highest, furthest, shot the most accurate was the winner. This game was originally only popular among younger disciples of cultivation sects. After it became known to the public, children of ordinary families also loved it. Though, of course, the damage from one of their little arrows was nothing compared to those of skilled disciples. Back when Wei Wuxian lived in the Lotus Pier and played shooting kites with the Sex disciples, he won a lot of first places. Zhang Chang, on the other hand, had always been second. His kites were either flown too far away to shoot down or never near enough, but not as far as Wei Wuxian's. Their kite was almost twice the other people's kites, made made into the shape of a flying beast. It had bright, exaggerated colors, a large, gaping mouth, and a few sharp tails that flapped in the wind. From a distance, it was exceptionally vibrant and lively, not quite terrifying, but almost a bit silly. The framework had been assembled by Jiang Fengmen himself and then given to Jiang Yanli to paint. This was why, whenever they took the kite out to compete, they both felt a sense of pride. Thinking of this, Wei Wuxian's lips shaped into a smile. He couldn't help but raise his head to see how the kite that the children were flying looked. It was entirely golden, a round mass of some sort. He pondered to himself, "What is this thing? A pancake or some beast that I don't know about?" Suddenly, a gust of wind blew over. The kite wasn't that high in the first place, and it wasn't in open space, so it immediately knocked off. One child cried out, "Oh no, the sun fell!" Wei Wuxian understood at once. These children were probably playing a game in an imitation of the Sunshot campaign. They were in the area of Yuyang when the Qishan Wen sect was at the peak of its prosperity. It abused its powers everywhere, and since wasn't far from Qishan, the people here must have suffered greatly, having been either troubled by their unleashed beasts or bullied by their arrogant cultivators. After the Sunshot campaign ended, the Wen sect was annihilated by the combined forces of the other sects, the 400-year-old foundation instantly crumbling down. Around the area of Qishan, a lot of places enjoyed activities that celebrated the Wen sect's destruction, which almost turned into traditions. This game was probably one of them. The children stopped the chase and gathering together in contemplation, started to discuss, "What do we do? We didn't even shoot the sun. It fell by itself. Now who's the leader?" Someone raised a hand. "Me, of course. I'm Jin Guang Yao. I killed the One-Six big villain." Sitting on the stairs leading to the inn, Wei Wuxian watched them with keen interest. In these types of games, the head of all cultivators, the Anfeng Zun, who was currently the most successful of all, was of course the most popular character. Although his family background is a bit disgraceful, the fact that he later climbed to such a rank was precisely why people respected him. During the Sunshot campaign, he was skillfully worked undercover for the Qishan Wen sect, deceiving all of the Wen sect's people to the point that a tremendous amount of information were disclosed, yet they knew nothing. After the Sunshot campaign, with flattery, wit, and countless other methods, he finally became chief cultivator, fully deserving of the title. Such a life could even be considered a legend if he was playing. He'd also want to try being Jin Guangyao. Choosing this boy to be the leader would be a very reasonable choice. Someone else protested, "But I'm Ni Mingju. I've won the most battles and captured the most people. I should be the leader." Jin Guangyao. Jin Guangyao, but I'm chief cultivator. Ni Mingju raised his fist. "So what if you're the chief cultivator? You're still my youngest brother. You'll have to run away whenever you see me anyways." Jin Guangyao did indeed cooperate and maintain his character. Flinching his shoulders, he quickly ran away. Someone else spoke up. "You short-lived idiot." Choosing a cultivator choosing a cultivator to be must have meant that they felt admiration toward the certain cultivator. Ni Mingju raged. "Jinzi Zhuan, you died even earlier than I did, so you're even more short-lived." Jinzi Zhuan responded defensively. "What's wrong with being short-lived? I'm third ranked." "Even if you're third, it's only your face." One of the children seemed to be tired from all of the running and standing, so he also moved to the stairs and sat beside Wei Wuxian, waving his hands. He mediated between the two. "Okay, okay, let's stop fighting. I'm the Yiling patriarch, so I'm the most powerful. So if you guys insist so much, I can be the leader." I can't believe the kid playing Yiling Patriarch sat next to the Yiling Patriarch. Amazing. He looked down. There really was a small wooden stick stuck beside the boy's waist, probably Chen Qing. Only simple-minded children like this would deign to be the Yiling Patriarch, only discussing in terms of power, not whether he was good or evil. Someone else barged in. "No, I'm the Sandu Shengsho. I'm the most powerful." The Yiling Patriarch replied as if he understood everything. "Jiang Chang, how is it possible for you to be better than me? Is there even one time that you didn't lose against me? How do you dare say that you're the most powerful? Aren't you embarrassed?" Jiang Chang. "I can't be better than you. Do you remember how you died?" The light smile on Wei Wuxian's face dissipated at once. It was as if he had suddenly been pricked by a poisonous needle. A faint, sharp pain came from all around his body. The yelling patriarch who sat beside him clapped his hands. Look at Chen Qing on my left, the tire seal on my right, along with the ghost general. I'm invincible! Holding a stick on his left hand and a rock in his right, he laughed for quite a while. Where's Wen Ning? Come out! A child from behind the crowd raised a hand and replied feebly, I'm here. I'm just saying, when the Sunshot campaign happened, I wasn't dead yet. Wei Wuxian felt that he really needed to interrupt. He asked, Cultivators, may I ask a question? When the children played this game, there had never been an adult who stepped in, not to mention it wasn't a scolding, but sort of serious question. The yielding patriarch looked at him in both wonder and caution. What do you want to ask? Wei Wuxian, why isn't there anyone from the Gusulan sect? There is. Where are they? The yielding patriarch pointed at a child who never said anything from beginning to end. That's him. Wei Wuxian looked over. The child had delicate features, the seedling of a charming, handsome man. A white rope tied around his smooth forehead in place of a forehead ribbon. Wei Wuxian asked, Who is he? The yielding patriarch pouted in disdain. Lan Wangji. Fine. These children understood the essence. Someone acting as Lan Wangji indeed should shut his mouth and stay silent. Out of the blue, Wei Wuxian's lips curled upward again. The poisonous needle had been pulled out, tossed to some random corner. All of the pain had been instantly wiped away. Wei Wuxian murmured to himself, How strange. Why can someone as boring as him always make me so happy? That's gay.
Gay people?
Yeah. When Lan Wangji came downstairs, he saw Wei Wuxian sitting on the stairs. A group of children sat around him, eating steamed meat buns together. Wei Wuxian ate his meat bun as he directed two children who stood back to back in front of him. Now, in front of you, there are thousands of Wensex cultivators. All of them were heavily armed and surrounded you, so closely that even a single drop of water wouldn't have leaked in. Your eyes should be sharper. Yes, that's it. Okay, Lan Wangji, pay attention here. You aren't how you usually would be. You're covered in blood. There's a lot of killing intent. You look really scary. Wei Wuxian, move closer to him. Do you know how to spin the flute? Let me see you spin it with only one hand. Be cooler. Do you know how to look cool? Come, let me show you. So he's saying you're not playing Wei Wuxian unless you're cool.
Yeah,
He's like
that's how it
you
goes.
can't pretend to be me unless you're cool enough. You're not cool enough, kid. Let me show you. Okay. Wei Wuxian responded and gave the stick to him. Wei Wuxian adeptly twirled Chin Ching between his fingers, causing all of the children to crowd around him and gasp in awe. Lan Hengji. He silently walked over. Seeing that he was here, Wei Wuxian dusted off his trousers and said goodbye to the children. Finally managing to stand up, he laughed as he walked, almost as if he had taken some strange poison. Lan Wangji. Wei Wuxian. I'm sorry, Han Guangjun. I gave all of them the breakfast I bought for you. Let's buy some more later. Lan Wangji. Wei Wuxian. What do you think? Were those kids cute? Guess who was the one with the rope tied around his forehead pretending to be? After a while of speechlessness, Lan Wangji finally couldn't hold it any longer. What else did I what else did I really do last night? It definitely wasn't that simple, or else what could have made Wei Wuxian laugh even until now? Wei Wuxian quickly waved his hands. No, 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 you didn't do anything. I'm just being ridiculous. Okay. Han Guangjun, I'm going to talk serious business now. Lan Wangji, speak. Wei Wuxian pulled a straight face. The coffin slamming noises of the Changclan cemetery had been silent for 10 years, suddenly starting again. It definitely wasn't coincidence. There must have been some other cause. Lan Wangji, what do you think the cause is? Wei Wuxian, good question. I think the cause was the corpse being dug out. Wei Lan Wangji, His expression was so attentive that it made Wei Wuxian recall how sincere he looked as he held both of his fingers last night when he had been drunk, painfully holding back laughter. Wei Wuxian continued in all seriousness. I think that the dismemberment of the corpse probably wasn't simply to seek revenge and vent hatred, but a malicious way of suppression. The person who cut up the corpse intentionally chose those places haunted by evil beings so that to place the body parts. Lan Wangji, combating poison with poison, they balance out and keep each other in check. Wei Wuxian, that's right. So, since the gravedigger dug out the torso yesterday, there wasn't anything to suppress Chang Khan's resentful spirits anymore. So, that coffin slamming noises started again. It's the same as how the Qinghe Nisek Saber Hall suppressed the saber spirits from all corpses. Perhaps this technique was derived from the Ni sect Saber Hall in the first place. It looks like that person is connected to both Jinghe Ni sect and Gutsu Lan sect. I'm afraid they aren't some easy opponent. Lan Wangji, there are only few people like this. Wei Wuxian. Yep. The truth is slowly being unveiled, and since the opponent started to move the corpse parts already, it means that he or they are already starting to become anxious. They'll definitely move again soon. Even if we don't find them, they'll come to find us. And as they search around, they leave behind more clues for sure, and our dear friend's hand will also tell us which direction to go, but we'll probably need to move faster as well. Only the right hand and the and the head are left. After this, we must also arrive before they do. The two traveling in the direction of the southwest, this time the ghost hand pointed at Shudong, a place known for heavy fog. It was a haunted city that nobody in the area dared to approach. Yay!
Let's go, gamers.
Yi City! Um, how does this chapter end? Because maybe I'll read this one chapter after and then be done. I don't know. This is less of a cliffhanger if I stop now.
I mean, a cliffhanger is always fun.
Yeah, but it's been literally like 2 months since I streamed the last time before this. So, I don't know if I should do that, but maybe. Nah, we'll stop. All right. So, that's the stream for today.
Brilliant.
All right, so that's fun, and I'm gonna have to do art. I think for the next time, the next art is definitely gonna be something about Lan Wangji drunk. I don't know what exactly, but you know,
Valid.
that is what I will draw because why wouldn't I?
Have you looked at the new Sky Season stuff?
No. All right, but I need to end my stream. So
Okay.
that's it for this time. I will probably draw drunk Lan Wangji, and we will continue with Yi City the next time. So that'll be fun. It'll be broken up into 2 streams definitely because it takes 4 hours. So, but the juniors will be fun. The entrance of my favorite boy, Oying Shizhen. I look forward to that. All right.
Okay, Kitty.
Bye.